We navigate our daily routines convinced that we author our own choices. We assume our conscious will is firmly in command of our actions. Yet beneath that assumption, the reality is entirely different. Most of our lives run on a rigid track of involuntary repetition, where we continuously default to the same emotional reactions and automatic behavioral loops. In the esoteric framework, this realm of unconscious behavior is not a random series of psychological accidents. It operates on a highly precise, cyclical blueprint. The central timekeeper governing these internal psychological rhythms is the physical moon. Identifying this hidden engine of the unconscious is the first step toward an internal shift. Attempting to change a deep-seated habit without understanding the cycle that powers it is like swimming against a tide you haven't yet learned to see. Ancient observers identified early on that human behavior mirrored the shifting geometry of the sky. They saw the same cyclical returns in human sentiment as they did in the stars above. They committed massive architectural and artistic resources to record these observations. We see the permanence of this effort in monuments like the Dendera zodiac, where the mapped celestial sphere is literally carved into stone. This preservation developed into lunar patterning, a symbolic system that translates external orbital data into a direct psychological roadmap for human experience. The inescapable circular shape of the zodiac serves as a mirror for the human condition. It illustrates that without conscious intervention, our behavioral loops will always circle back to their point of origin. The physical gravitational pull the moon exerts on Earth's oceans acts as a direct parallel to its esoteric function. Symbolically, it exerts the exact same pull on our internal waters, dictating our emotional state. The specific conditions of those emotional tides are determined by aspects. These are the distinct mathematical angles between celestial bodies that decide whether psychological energy will flow smoothly or crash into resistance. We can see this tension mapped out geometrically. When two planetary nodes align in a strict 90-degree angle, they form a square. This generates intense internal pressure and emotional friction. But when that geometry shifts into a trine, an exact equilateral triangle, the tension dissolves. Emotional energy moves entirely without resistance. And when those nodes collapse entirely into a conjunction, the competing forces fuse, creating a single highly concentrated node of emotional intensity. These continuous geometric realignments are what drive the sudden, daily fluctuations in our moods that often seem to defy logical explanation. While it drives immediate emotional reactions, the moon also functions as a psychological archivist. It manages how we catalog and store the past. Tracking these historical impressions required painstaking documentation. Medieval scholars relied on detailed manuscripts to catalog astrological archetypes and maintain a lasting record of this psychological memory. Look at how this memory is geographically organized. A natal chart wheel divides human experience into 12 separate geometric fields, known as houses. When the moon occupies a specific house, it dictates exactly where an individual will cling to their past. The geometry localizes their emotional attachments. Because of this deep storage mechanism, our current reactions are never isolated events. They are consistently filtered through a heavily archived blueprint of previous experiences. When raw emotion and archived memory are subjected to endless repetition, they lock together to form the third pillar of the system, habit. Because the moon completes its orbit faster than any other tracked celestial body, its rapid transit writes the operating code for our daily routines. This continuous looping reinforces a psychological pathway. With every orbit, the mind learns the rhythm and hardwires the routine. This creates a vast, interconnected behavioral network. Maps like this 1886 celestial planisphere display thousands of orbital intersections, visually representing the sheer complexity of our internal systems. With every cycle, the groove deepens. The repetition entrenches a reaction into the architecture of the brain. It is this relentless speed and exact repetition that transforms a fleeting feeling into a permanent, unbreakable habit. Emotion, memory, and habit are not separate forces. They function as a singular psychological machine, powered by the same repeating lunar cycle. Navigating daily life without awareness of this framework ensures a person remains completely reactive, pulled back and forth by internal tides they cannot see. But utilizing the symbolic language of astrology provides an objective distance. It gives you the toolset to observe the geometry of your own reactions before they fully manifest. When you can anticipate your own emotional weather, you gain a point of leverage. By recognizing the pattern as it begins, you can choose a different response before the habitual loop closes. This coordination allows the internal conflict between what we intend to do and what we actually do to recede. It creates a state where conscious intent and unconscious rhythm can finally work in parallel. Directing the patterns of the mind begins with a shift in perspective. To change the habits of the internal landscape, one must first recognize the architecture of the external rhythms that shaped them.